साक्षाधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैः वृत्तस्तथा भावत एव सद्भिः साक्षाधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रैः वृत्तस्तथा भावत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभुः प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरस्य चरणारविन्दम् किन्तु प्रभुः प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरस्य चरणारविन्दम् संसारधामानललितलोक प्राणायकारिण घनाघनत्यम् सकलनगुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि दयं स्तुवं तस्य यशस्वी सन्धं दयं स्तुवं तस्य यशस्वी सन्धं वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् संसारदावानलनिरलोक प्राणायकारिण घनाघनत्यम् कल्याणगुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् 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 प्राणायकारिण घनाघनत्यम् सकलनगुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणारविन्दम् 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhupada, and welcome everyone to the Saturday morning Bhagavad Gita as it is reading and discussion from the unedited, unadulterated version of the Bhagavad Gita that Srila Prabhupada authorized in 1972, and it is our honor and our privilege to present this class and discussion to people in order to clarify the facts of the matter in regards to Prabhupada's instructions and his direction during his movements, his presence in this movement, and after. Because the instructions of the spiritual master are Shastra, and they should be respected as such and not changed or adulterated or altered for any reason whatsoever by his disciples. And this is what happened after the disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, that after his disappearance, the Gaudiya Math membership at that time engaged in all kinds of ambitious activities to take over the temples and set up their own individual domains, their own individual missions. And this was the result of the certain people wanting to establish themselves as gurus, as spiritual leaders. And this has happened, of course, in the ISKCON group. And this went on after Prabhupada's departure in November 1977, that immediately the senior disciples, so-called senior disciples of him, took on a campaign to divide the world up into different zonal gurus systems, zonal guru acharyas. That was the term that they used back then. And there was a competition between Tamal Krishna and Hansaduda and Romeshwar and Satsrup and especially Keith Ham, Kirtananda. He wanted to basically shut down all the temples around him and have everybody move to New Vrindavan because he considered that was the summum bonum place where you could become Krishna conscious. This was very unfortunate. And Prabhupada had put so much time and effort into establishing the Krishna consciousness movement in the early days. And we've been reading from the diaries of Srila Prabhupada, and we're going to go back to the diaries again today and revisit them. We've been reading them for the last couple of years, and very great insight into Prabhupada's personal efforts to establish the mission. And somehow or other, so many people have disregarded this history. This history is intriguing and very valuable for all the senior, what we call senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada, to know the history of what he went through as setting up the Krishna consciousness movement back in the 60s. And what better way to find out than to go directly to the diaries that he wrote himself. And we have two diaries, the Jaladuta diary, and we have the second diary here. This is called the beginning. I don't want to disturb everything. So these are the actual words that Prabhupada was writing down in his daily memoirs and giving us an idea of how he implemented the Krishna consciousness movement from day to day, moving along. And we're at May 31st, 1966. And if we could go to that, I send it over to our co-host. And we want to thank our co-host, Rupesh Prabhu, for stepping up and taking a leadership role with us in this production of these classes. We have over 1,000 classes, 1,000 hours of classes, excuse me. And we've been diligent in following this for months and months and years now. I think we're moving into our third year of steady devotional service, not whimsical, but steady devotional service and determination. So here we have Tuesday, May 31st, 1966. And the sunrise, Prabhupada writes, was 4:34 a.m. Sunset was 7:21 p.m. Moonrise is 2:25. Dwadasi today. I paid Paul $2 for expenditure. That's Paul Murray, who had the loft where he was staying in the Bowery. So Prabhupada was paying. He was conscientious to always give his share. Registration to Indian Embassy was 80 cents and bitter melon was 15 cents. And the total was $2.95. In the afternoon, Mr. Robert Nelson came to see me. I requested him to become a member of the association. He agreed and paid $20 for the month of June 1966. This is deposited in the bank. I inquired for the Chatham Tower, so Prabhupada's looking for a place to move out of the Bowery location and find something more suitable. And at the present, it is not possible to acquire a room there. It is very much costly affair, but I have a strong desire to acquire a room there. One letter received from the Punjab National Bank Limited, Vrindavan, informing the account number and balance, etc. And then he does his balance sheet, expenditure $2.95, income $20, and the bank deposit was $20. And here we have a picture. I took a photograph of this, the matchless gifts. So this is what's going to happen, that Prabhupada is going to find, with the help of a few people, this storefront and begin. This is really how the movement started to go forward, was when he finally got his own location, his independent setup, and no longer affected by other people he was rooming with. Go ahead. What else have we got there? It says, today I entered a new house in 22nd Avenue, rear portion, room B1. For my purpose, it is all good. I do not know why Krishna is trying to establish me in New York. I am his servant, and therefore let his desire be fulfilled through my agency. In the evening, there was a meeting in the New York store. There was about 8 men. Collection was $5.50, and the book collection was $4. Go ahead, please. Look at this. Now, this is when he was in his room prior, and you can see he's having a lecture, a discussion on the philosophy, Bhagavad Gita classes. He was recording back then. Today there was a very nice demonstration of a tape recorder, Sankirtan, by me. It is all grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Haridas Thakur said that the transcendental sound of the Harinam would even purify the hearts of birds and beasts. Today, this statement of Haridas Thakur is collaborated. These Americans cannot understand even a word's meaning of the Sanskrit, of the Sankirtan, and yet they were so much attracted. It is all Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's power. There is no credit for me. So humble, Prabhupada, working. Little did he know how things would unfold, and here we have Prabhupada. Look at this beautiful painting. Sunday, March 6th, according to Mayapur Panchika, today is Adivas Day of Gur Purnima. Devotees at Vrindavan and Navadvip are enjoying the celebration. I am here alone without any devotee companionship. But I have come here to serve the Lord and not for personal happiness. I am prepared to live in hell, even if I'm able to serve the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wanted his mission should be propagated all over the world, and that is my objective. I do not mind the inconvenience personally felt. So these are personal words from our spiritual master, revealing his consciousness, his pure consciousness, his devotion to Krishna. Very important, everyone. And we're going to go to the June highlights, and we're going to start. Now, these are summaries of what he did, and then it goes into the diary. It goes page by page for everybody, and we'll read those sections as we move along this month. The books on account $5 on the 2nd. On the 4th of June, Miki paid the balance for books $4. Book collection on the 6th. Raphael, 3 taken, $4. One gentleman has taken, a set of books, altogether 5 sets distributed out of 16. There is a balance now of 11 sets. Book collection, $4 on the 8th. And book collection on, on the 10th was $4. The 12th, the income accounts receivable, 80 cents. There was on the 13th a book collection of $2, a book collection on the 14th of $7. You're keeping track of this. On the 17th, Mr. Smith, the press representative, a friend of Carl's, came to see me. He took note of my activities, took 1 set of books, and the book collection was $16. On the 20th, the book collection was $1.25. On the 21st, 1 letter written to Paragon Book Gallery. On the 22nd, a Theosophical Lodge at 37 East 72nd kept 1 set of books on approval. The Institute of Religion and Social Studies invited me to see at 10:30 a.m. with books, and the book collection was $1. On the 23rd, one of the books deposited with the director of the Institute of Religions and Social Studies. It is settled that the director will directly deposit the value in the bank. On the 24th, Mr. Grant took 1 set of books. He desires to pay gradually. Book collection was $1. So you can see how focused Prabhupada was on distributing. And by the way, he was distributing these books. This is the original Delhi Bhagavatams, and we want to thank everyone who donated for the printing of these books, which are in the process of being done now after a great hardship, I must say. And we're going to be very excited to enter into this particular phase of the Hare Krishna Society PDA group in distributing the original Delhi Bhagavatams to very sincere people that are interested in self-realization and God consciousness. The classes and kirtans, in the evening there was a meeting, there was a gathering of about 16 heads. Bob came with some flour and suji. I required some flour and Krishna scented. The contribution was $12, and the lecture was very interesting, just like our classes become very interesting if you attend them on a regular basis. In the evening, there was a class, and it was the best than all previous classes. Some people say that to us. There was attendance about 20, and contribution was $19. On the 4th, the Sanskrit class, the contribution was only $9. On the 6th of June, in the evening, a meeting more than 16 men and women attended. It was a good turnout. The meeting was interesting, but the collection was poor. Contribution was only $9.50. On the 8th, there was a meeting in the evening. About 16 persons attended, one of them which was a Chinese woman, and who became very much interested. The collection was $11. In the evening, there was 12 people on the 10th, and the contribution was $8. On the 11th in the afternoon, there was a Sanskrit class, 5 attended, and contribution was $2. On the 12th of June, I cooked 12 different items, and all present, more than the 16 ladies and gentlemen, ate with great pleasure. It was all grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The contribution was $3. And the 13th, in the morning class, discussion on friendship and discipleship with Mr. Paul Murray. Very interesting. In the evening, attendance was 9 only, and somebody paid in the basket $100. The total contribution was $103. On the 14th, in the morning class, Carl, Nelson, and Paul attended the class. So we had 4 people at the morning class. 15th, in the evening meeting, there was about 12 heads. Contribution was only $5.50. And the other day, a $100 contribution made by Carl to be paid to Mr. Goldsmith for registration expenses. On the 17th in the evening, there was a meeting. Collection was only $7. On the 18th, the Sanskrit was poorly attended by 2 only, and the contribution was $2. On the 20th in the meeting, 16 persons attended, and the contribution was only $9. One artist had a drawn picture of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and on the 22nd in the evening, there was a meeting. The attendance was 11, but the collection was only $7.50. On the 23rd, Mike proposed to become a Vaishnava and married with his girlfriend. I think that's Mukunda back then. And on the 24th in the evening, there was a meeting, and attendance is about 12, and the contribution was only $6.40. So we're back again reading these entries in the diary, and hopefully everybody here is getting an insight how to present Krishna consciousness and move forward in your daily activities, dealing with people that you know in your local area, because we each have a responsibility. These classes are to motivate us, and then during the day, go on preaching to other people and encourage them to take up the process of bhakti yoga and devotional service. So thank you very much. We're going to move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we'll have our class with His good grace, Yashodanandana Prabhu, here on December 2024. And he's speaking to us from California in this global broadcast. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.
Sai. श्री गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion, sometimes called a class, on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as we do every Saturday during Srila Prabhupada's preaching mission in America. When he started his preaching on Bhagavad Gita in 1966, he chose a few selected verses in the beginning of the classes for recitation. These are found in the introduction on page number 1. We will recite these together in honor of Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Ghurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This week we will be reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, the original 1972 non-edited, non-adulterated, non-interpolated version, non-adulterated.
We can't hear Prabhuji. Vishwakarma Prabhu, can you hear Yashodanandan Prabhu?
No. There seems to be some technical problem here. Let's just wait and see if our Rupesh can solve it.
Yeah, he got bumped out. No, Yashodanandan Prabhu got bumped out. So it's probably from Yashodanandan Prabhu, not from Rupesh Prabhu, because we are still connected to Rupesh Prabhu. So
Let's carry on, and then when Yashodanandana can come back on, we'll have him continue to speak. He might have to reboot his computer. So we're at text 5?
yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. We'll go right to the word for word meaning. Klesha, trouble. Adhikarta, more troublesome. Tesham, of them. Abhyakta, unmanifested. Asaktya, being attached. Chetasam, of those whose minds. Abhyakta, unmanifested. He, certainly. Gati, Dukkham, progress is troublesome. Dehavad, be of the embodiments, and avapyate, achieve. Translation. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Guruji, Yashoda Prabhuji is back,
Okay, good.
but he has to be unmuted. Let me
Yeah.
unmute him.
Yashodanandana Prabhu, we're just ready to read the purport, so please carry
Okay,
on.
sorry about that. The whole electricity went off in the hills here.
Yeah,
I'm able to connect on the cell phone. Let me see if what I
excellent.
can do to read this. It's a little tough here.
Do
Okay,
you want me
no
to
light.
read, Prabhuji? Do you
Yeah,
want me
why
to
don't you
read so
read?
that
That might be better if you read. By the way, nice
then you
picture
can
behind your head. Krishna and Arjuna are right there.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Okay, so
Krishna.
I'll read the purport and then you can opine.
Okay,
The
very
purport.
nice.
The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yoga accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna and nirguna, of the Supreme possessing and not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, but if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation we may find somewhere, which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent and all powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So, for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads. And they have to learn the language, understand the non perceptual feelings, and they have to realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one has to ultimately surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotees, such transcendentalists, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual, blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is danger of turning to atheism. Thus, in this process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna.
Thank you for that reading. Very enlivening. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punah Punah Srimadrupa Padambho Jadhulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyam Sadadasu Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Chatakaromisvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. There are some very important points in this purport of the difference between personalism and impersonalism, or the difference between the path of Jnana Yoga, which is followed by the impersonalists, predominantly by the followers of Adi Shankaracharya, and the personalists, followers of the Vaishnavacharyas, such as Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimbarkacharya, Vallabhacharya. The major difference Krishna is explaining here is that it is troublesome. It is very difficult to follow that path. For ordinary conditioned souls, it is much easier to follow the path of Bhakti Yoga. And why is that? We will see, we have seen already in discussing the path of Bhakti Yoga, how Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. That the path of bhakti is very easy. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that one can offer a fruit, a leaf, a flower, some water with devotion, and this will be pleasing to Krishna. Now, these great acharyas, they have established various temples and various facilities to give people a chance to develop that bhakti, that devotion. Just like in our last class, our Prabhu there in Miami, Nilesh Prabhu, was describing the action of a devotee who was engaged in a somewhat unsavory or negative occupation. But because he had a sincere desire to please Krishna, Krishna was very pleased to accept his service. Now, in Sanskrit, this is called Baba Grahi Janardana. The Lord Janardana accepts the love and the sincere efforts of his devotees. Because the path of bhakti is not difficult. It is much less difficult than the path of Jnana Yoga, which involves severe austerities, learning of Sanskrit, discussion of the Upanishad, neti, not this, not that, is this Brahman, is this not Brahman? This is not easy for a condition, especially in the age of Kali Yuga. People do not have the time for endless Sanskrit studies and everything. That is why Srila Prabhupada very nicely and very simply put these books together so anyone can read the books, understand the process, and practice it at home very simply. It is not complicated. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, Srila Prabhupada recommends that even a family man with his wife and children can offer his foodstuff to Lord Krishna, engage in kirtan, reading Bhagavad Gita with members of the family, and in this way, make tangible spiritual advancement. It is not very complicated. It is not very difficult. It is not very difficult at all. As a matter of fact, the leaders of the impersonalists, Adi Shankaracharya, recommended to his followers to chant the name of Govinda. Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda Mudhamate, Samprapte Sanite Kale Dukharin Karane. That at the time of death, this study of Sanskrit grammatical combinations will not help you. So you should worship Lord Govinda. He's also composed many Vaishnava songs, such as Jagannathastakam, Yamunastakam, Govindastakam. Prabhupada explained in one place he was a Vaishnava in disguise. But because he was playing a specific role to bring in the Kali Yuga, to usher the Kali Yuga, he preached this impersonalist philosophy to combat the unnecessary killing of animals that was going on. So Adi Shankaracharya played a very important role in chasing Buddhism out of India with his very strong Vedic preaching. But the great Vaishnavacharyas reestablished the position of Lord Krishna in his message about to engage people in the devotional service. Now, we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna made it simple. He also says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuro. that engage your mind in thinking of me, offer obeisances to me, worship me. This is the process. And this was perfectly demonstrated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a very nice, simple Bengali verse, Kali Yuga Yuga Dharma Namer Prachar, that in Kali Yuga, the religion of the age, the method for self-realization this age is this Namer Prachar, this practice of chanting of Hare Krishna, the distribution of the chanting of Hare Krishna. Tate lagi pita varna Chaitanya avatar, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as an incarnation in this yellowish golden color to bring about this chanting. Ah, very nice. You found the verse. Kali Yuga Yuga Dharma Namer Prachar, Tate lagi pita varna Chaitanya avatar. I can't read it. I can't read the translation, Nilesh. Maybe you can read the translation. It's very small on my phone. Maybe you can read the actual translation.
Okay. The religious practice for the age of Kali is to broadcast the glories of the holy name. Only for this purpose has the Lord in a yellow color descended as Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 3, verse 40.
What does the purport say?
In this age of Kali, the practical system of religion for everyone is the chanting of the name of Godhead. This was introduced in this age by Lord Chaitanya. Bhakti Yoga actually begins with the chanting of the holy name as confirmed by Madhvacharya in his commentary of the Mundaka Upanishad. He quotes this verse from the Narayana Samhita. Dwapar ter janer Vishnu pancharatras tu kevalai kalau tu nama matrena pujya Bhagavan Hari. In the Dwapar Yuga, people should worship Lord Vishnu only by the regulative principles of the Narada Pancharatra and other such authorized books. In the age of Kali, however, people should simply chant the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Hare Krishna mantra is specifically mentioned in many Upanishads, such as the Kali Santarana Upanishad, where it is said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Sodaksham Nam Kali Kalam Sa Nashanam Natha Parataro Paya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. After searching through all the Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this age than the chanting of Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you there?
I don't have. Okay, here we go. I think I've been unmuted here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. The point is, this particular purport is very, very important because what we have is basically the perfect summary of the Yuga Dharma, or the transcendental process for the age. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained in his writings that this Samkirtan movement will be recognized all over the world. We can see the seeds of it already that Prabhupada has sown all over the world with his preaching and his traveling, the transcendental Paribrahacharya, by bringing the Krishna consciousness movement everywhere. And we know, according to Chaitanya Bhagavata, that it was predicted that by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, that his name would be eventually be chanted in every town and village and farm around the world. Now, this may take some time in some countries, especially with the current social conditions around the world and the unnecessary agitation and unnecessary conflicts that are prevailing right now. But we know eventually it will happen. What we can do in our part is trying to promote the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, follow the teachings as best as we can, and get some books from books, original books, unchanged books, and distribute those books to facilitate that transcendental revival. Thank you very much. I'm having a lot of difficulty here with the failure of electricity and
Yeah. Okay, we'll carry on. I wanted to refer back again to the purport here in chapter 12, verse 6 and 7. I thought this was very relevant to our understanding of the deity. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be sadguna and nirguna, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. This is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to the destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere which is not authorized by the post office will not work. Similarly, God has authorized representation of the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent and all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the service of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So this worship of the Supreme Lord in the Archa Vigraha is very important for everybody who practices Krishna consciousness. And I wanted to refer to the Nectar of Devotion and have a review of some of the offenses, because we've been reading Nectar of Devotion, which goes over the offenses to be avoided when dealing with the deity. And this is also something we should always be mindful of. So the offenses to be avoided, as described by Rupa Goswami, are as followed. In the supplementary Vedic literature, there is the following list of 32 offenses in the matter of serving the Lord. 1 should not enter the temple of the deity in a car or palanquin or with shoes on the feet. 2, one should not fail to observe the various festivals for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Janmashtami and Rath Yatra, etc. One should not avoid bowing down before the deity. 4, one should not enter the temple to worship the Lord without having washed his hands and feet after eating. 5, one should not enter the temple in a contaminated state, according to Vedic literature. If someone dies in the family, the whole family becomes contaminated for some time, according to its status. For example, if the family is Brahmin, their contamination period is 12 days. For the Kshatriya and Vaishyas, it's for 15 days. And for Shudras, it's 30 days. 6, one should not bow down on one hand. 7, one should not circumambulate in front of Sri Krishna. The process of circumambulating the temple is that one should begin circumambulating from the deity's right-hand side of the temple and come around. Such circumambulation should be performed outside the temple structure at least 3 times daily. 8, one should not spread his legs before the deity. Prabhupada mentions that in a japa tape. Sit properly. 9, one should not sit before the deity holding the ankles, elbows, or knees with his hands. 10, not lie down before the deity of Krishna. 11, one should not accept prasadam before the deity. That's very interesting. Most temples, they serve in front of the deities these days. One should never speak a lie before the deity. One should not talk very loudly before the deity. One should not talk with others before the deity. That goes on. One should not cry or howl before the deity. 16, one should not quarrel or fight before the deity. 17, one should not chastise anyone before the deity. 18, one should not be charitable to beggars before the deity. 19, one should not speak very harshly to others before the deity. 20, one should not wear a fur blanket before the deity. 21, one should not utilize or praise anyone before the deity. That happens quite a bit. They cheer in front of the deities in the temples, and when people give donations, there's a big clap or an ovation. In Toronto, they do that constantly. 22, one should not speak any ill names before the deity. 23, one should not pass air before the deity. 24, one should not fail to worship the deity according to his means. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the Lord is satisfied if some devotee offers him even a little leaf or a little water. This formula prescribed by the Lord is universally acceptable even for the poorest man. But that does not mean that one who has sufficient means to worship the Lord very nicely should also adopt this method and try to satisfy the Lord simply by offering water and a leaf. If he has sufficient means, he should offer nice decorations, flowers, nice foodstuffs, and observe some ceremonies. It is not that one should try to satisfy the Supreme Lord with a little water and a leaf, and for himself spend all his money in sense gratification. 25, one should not eat anything which is not offered first to Krishna. 26, one should not fail to offer fresh food and grains to Krishna according to the season. 27, after cooking, no one should be offered any foodstuffs unless it is first offered to the deity. And 28, one should not sit with his back towards the deity. Very interesting. We see a lot of kirtan parties that what they do is they chant with their back to the deity, like a musical performance. 29, one should not offer obeisances silently to the spiritual master. In other words, one should recite aloud the prayers to the spiritual master while offering obeisances. 30, one should not fail to offer some praise in the presence of the spiritual master. And 31, one should not praise himself before the spiritual master. And 32, one should not deride the demigods before the deity. So that is 32 offenses that are mentioned here. And we'll continue on reading in future classes these sections from offenses to avoid in worshiping the deity. The deity worship is very detailed and very important for all of us to study and understand how Krishna is present in the Archa Vigraha and how we should conduct ourselves in front of him. We'll move forward now with the next section of the class, and we'll call upon Neela Sharma maybe to make a further comment.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, it's very interesting part where we are constantly making connections with Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. And I personally myself struggled with it because coming from India after I was exposed to Srila Prabhupada's books, but there was so much inundation of Mayavad philosophy that you sometimes wonder whether the absolute truth is Nirakar Nirgun Brahman or is it Sagun Sakar Purushottam Bhagwan Shri Krishna. And this was sealed for me once I came to know about Uddhav Sandesh. And Uddhav, as we all know, was one of the greatest intellectuals or Jnana yogis who was in association with Krishna. And Krishna, in order to teach us and make him a nimitta, make him the conduit, he tells Uddhav Maharaj to go and teach this Jnana Yoga to the gopis who are distressed in Krishna's separation. And so when Uddhav goes to try to teach this and tells the gopis, try to focus your mind, typical of Jnana Yogis through meditation. And I think today or tomorrow is somewhat International Day of Meditation, if I'm not mistaken, So this meditation process, and there is a very nice kirtan by Surdas who has said that Udho manana bhaye dasabis means the gopis were saying, which mind are you telling us to concentrate and collect? It says, the Lord has not given us 15, 20 minds. He has given us only one mind. So for this, Uddhav was very amazed. It says, 15, 20 minds? I've never thought about this. He says, yes, the Lord has given me only one mind. And that mind Krishna took with him on his body when he left with Akrura. So we are mindless creatures. We cannot do anything what you're telling us to do. So long story short, if you see that whole conversation of Uddhav and the gopis, Uddhav realizes that he does not know anything about Bhakti Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga is so far ahead of him, And in fact, even the gopis taunt him by telling him is that, oh, you know what, you're very lucky. You're though with Krishna, you are not in love with him, so you don't realize it. And this is when Uddhav Maharaj has a transformation of his heart. Now remember, what is Uddhav Maharaj's qualifications? He was one of the greatest intellectuals of this universe. He was Sakshat Brahaspati Shishya, meaning he was the disciple, he was taught personally by Brahaspati himself. Normally, whoever approaches Brahaspati, who is the spiritual master of the demigods, he always gives some assistant or somebody to tell him, okay, you can teach him. But when Brahaspati saw that Uddhav Maharaj was such a great intellectual, he wanted to personally teach him. So, of course, the disciple is not going to know what the Guru Maharaj doesn't know. And that is why Prabhupada always reminds us that you have to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master for you to understand the bhakti process of this line, where we can understand Bhagwan feature so very easily. So nicely he says in the purport, by simply offering obeisances to him, we can realize in Bhakti Yoga. By simply offering him simple foodstuffs, we can realize this. So all these processes are very simple and straightforward. You see, we cannot do yagnas, we cannot do any of these things is because it needs a lot of money, a lot of samagri. So very simple, chanting his name, we can realize him in the absolute sense and go from there. The another thing which I wanted to share, and I wish Yashodanandan Prabhu was here, is we were discussing about, yes. Yeah, we were discussing about what is prasadam, and Prabhupada's view about mass distribution of prasadam. And I'd like to share some things over here, and then maybe some of you can comment about it, is that I would like to share something, where Prabhupada is talking about different situations, and I'm bringing about from Prabhupada books itself. If you see, this is a conversation, a room conversation. Let me show you a room conversation on farm management, December 10th, 1976 in Hyderabad. December 10th, 1976 in Hyderabad. And I'm going to just give a part of this because of the lack of time. I'm just going to read this part of Prabhupada. Give them nice prasadam by which they are attracted. It does not matter. Khichdi, puri, kachori, ladu, whatever they are attracted, we must give. Whatever that will attract them, that I want. Krishna prasadam. Don't waste. Give them nice palatable foodstuffs. Give them one finest kachori, one nice samosa, two puris. They will be very glad. Make very, very nice prasadam. What is this rubbish? The dog cannot eat even. They have done a great mistake. All rascals. I'm very angry. I say that if you have got no money, I will spend. I will give you money. Why should you make such 10th class and no food at all? It is to be thrown away. Simply waste of grains and energy. And this is the important part. Engage nice professional cook. Prepare nice food stuff. I shall spend for that if you have no money. Gentlemen who are coming immediately should be offered some prasadam. Please come here. Take puri, kachori, samosa. Arrangement should be like that. The doctors came. He came out of love, but there is no prasad. Huh? What is this? The doctor comes, but we couldn't supply him prasadam at 12 o'clock. So this is one of those conversations. There are many. There are two other conversations where Prabhupada talks about arrangement and how, even the professional cooks, if they are smokers and not, how we can patiently talk to them and ask them not to do this. Where he quotes a nice Gujarati saying where he says, "Na mama che kana mama," meaning it is better to have an uncle with one eye rather than no uncle at all, or one blind uncle. It's kana means one eye, he's blind. So na mama karta kana mama sara. This is the Gujarati version of it. So he says that yes, if we can't find any help, we can seek that help and we can have that. So there are so many problems to maintain every living being. So you can engage some men, as he says over here. So you can engage some men. And also there is another, this is a conversation again, you can have the details reading it. Room conversation, December 12, 1976 in Hyderabad. You see, in Hyderabad where he talks about it. So he says that, and this, when you hire these men, they go and smoke because somebody mentioned over here. So Mahamsa says, if you want to smoke, you go somewhere far and smoke. And before you start cooking, you must wash and have bath and then come and do the cooking. So there has been these instances where Prabhupada has talked about the mass distribution of prasadam, where we can hire professional confectioners, we can hire professional help, but the temple worship has to be done by the second initiated Brahmins. Hare Krishna.
The one thing is the Archa Vigraha worship of Krishna in the temple was a very important part of the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. And Prabhupada was very much focused on installing the deity in temples around the world. And during his personal presence, it was a great victory for him to see these deities being installed in these centers. It was one of his great achievements, actually. And if you see Prabhupada's work in England, for example, the installation of the deities at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and the installation of Radha Govinda in New York City, and Los Angeles. I know in Toronto it was a wonderful thing. We had the opportunity to serve. Prabhupada gave the name to Toronto Temple Raimunadam, New Raimunadam, and it was named after Raimuna in India. And I had a chance to visit that center in Bhubaneswar. It was a great opportunity for us. We went to Jagannath Puri, myself and Nandi Keshwar. We took a group of about 14 devotees there. And it was interesting to note, Nilesh, they wouldn't let us in the temple there. They restricted us because they said we were unqualified to go before Jagannath in that temple. And I remember we set up a program outside across from Jagannath Temple. Myself and Undi, we had some Lakshmi, so we bought some sweets from local vendors. We offered them. We did a kirtan. There was over 5,000 people that came. And they wrote a story about it in the state newspaper that we objected. I spoke, and somebody translated. I spoke. I said, it doesn't matter. We have Lord Jagannath in our temples all throughout the world by Prabhupada's arrangement. And our service couldn't be restricted by time and space. So they wrote a whole story in the state newspaper about it. After that, we went to Raimunadam. It was a great honor for us to go there. And by chance, the temple there was very unique. If you've been to Raimuna, Nilesh, you see that it was just a compound, and in the compound there was the deity that was worshipped by Madhavendra Puri, and it was where the sweet rice was being prepared every day. And we went there. We had a big kirtan. They let us in. It was quite a celebration. And we were very honored to be there, to travel there. But remember, it's back in the 70s, and it was very, very much a big adventure to go before the deity. And we had that sense of respect and in our hearts, all the devotees that went. It wasn't just a whimsical thing where people were calling in some cases, the statues. That goes on. Some people think that they're just statues, they're not worshipful deities. We've read that here today, and you could read all the offenses. We chanted, Nilesh. Oh, we had a big kirtan. Oh my God. We went on for an hour. And the residents there in Raimuna were quite astounded. They didn't really understand why we're so ecstatic back then. Because we got a chance to go to the actual Raimunadam and chant before Kirchor Gopinath. And, in the Toronto temple, we very carefully prepared sweet rice every day for our deities. Every day. In fact, it was a part of our schedule that someone would be making the sweet rice for the deity. So we were following in the footsteps. Prabhupada wanted us to create this atmosphere of new Raimunadam, but we were in Raimuna in India, and it was very ecstatic. And I still remember, surprisingly, after the kirtan, and it was so magnificent, that the pujari came into the room. It was a small temple room, and he lifted the garland off of Gopinath, Kirchur Gopinath. He came over and placed it on me. I was like, whoa. It was so auspicious. It was a memorable occasion. And then after, they came and brought us the milk sweet, the kheer sweet rice, and served it to all of us. And it was so memorable because we had left Jagannath Puri where they wouldn't allow us in the temple, and we went to Raimuna, and there they were welcoming us, and we were chanting the kirtan, and we got the fabulous sweet rice from the pujari, from the deity. So this Archa Vigraha worship, Prabhus, is a very important part of Krishna consciousness and the spreading of it by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And unfortunately, nowadays, things have changed dramatically. And the temples, a lot of them, they don't cook with ghee anymore. They use oil. And they get hired cooks and that. This isn't the way our movement was spread, by the way. It was a much different thing. No one was allowed to cook in the kitchen unless they had Brahminical initiation, Nilesh. You weren't allowed in. It was as simple as that, not smoke cigarettes, go in the kitchen. And then these are situations, hold on, Prabhu. These are situations that, and you know, you go and see the thousands of comments that Prabhupada gave in regards to devotional service, but the mood is this, that this is a strict movement. And, you know, all of these concoctions that these people are doing are not in the mood of Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan movement that he set up back when we were all with him. It was very strict. And nobody was allowed, even in the kitchen, to touch the fire unless they had the sacred thread. That was the rule. Well, somehow they're changed over the period of time, and we can see that. But the point is that we want to try to follow, like all these rules that we read this morning, the 32 offenses. We should try to be at least mindful of them and carry on. We're going to go to, I think he's gone, Tim Lee. Is he with us? No. You were going to comment, Nilesh. Go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. You know, when you talk about smoking and, you know, other things, it reminds me of Yamuna Devi Dasi and her recollections of cooking with Srila Prabhupada. And and these are her words. I was trying to kind of look up the quote and everything. These are her words. And the first time when she helped Srila Prabhupada, she was wearing a very small mini dress. And she had a cigarette between her fingers. And she said, okay, Prabhupada, what do you want me to do? Okay, Swamiji, what do you want me to do? And imagine the compassionate nature of Srila Prabhupada and the patience which he expressed, you know, with Yamuna Devi Dasi and telling her, like, okay, first of all, go and extinguish the cigarette. So she would go and extinguish the cigarette. And then says, okay, now go and wash your hands. So she washed her hands. And that is how slowly and steadily Prabhupada worked on Yamuna Devi Dasi and tried to, Yamuna Mataji, and made her into what we all know her as a very exalted disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So it kind of reminded me of that particular episode, is that, you know, if Prabhupada has been so compassionate, if we claim that we are his disciples, should we show some compassion also? You know, to whoever wants to do some kind of a service, who wants to engage himself in some kind of way of service, and yet that the gold standard has to be maintained, because the temples are the spiritual oasis they are the spiritual world in this material world. And so that absolute standard which Prabhupada has given us has to be maintained in the temples. But he has told us that there can be some concessions done when we are trying to do mass distribution, when we are trying to feed a lot of people, and when we are struggling to get some help. Then yes, but the first, the deity worship has the golden rules, and so anybody who comes to the temple should be able to see what is that golden rule. Where do we need to aspire to? And that is very important. That is very critical. So I was just trying to explain that we all have evolved from different stages of so many offenses that Prabhupada has constantly been reminding us, telling us, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And that is how we kind of evolve. So we need to help each other in this evolution. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And we want to thank everyone for attending today's Bhagavad Gita as it is reading and discussion. And we've reached, surprisingly, 11:31, which is the end of the program. And we had some technical difficulties. This goes on in life. There's always trouble with this or that, the internet. Can you imagine if the whole internet went down and this will all be ended? And then we'll have to carry on our own. But at any rate, by Krishna's grace, we are conducting these classes, and we encourage you all to attend them on a weekly basis to give you some kind of spiritual association, because sadhu sangha is very valuable in our own spiritual life, to have this mutual group of Prabhupada disciples that all basically try to see things on the same page and follow Srila Prabhupada's discipline according to his instructions and not deviate, which is common. Misinformation, misrepresentation, deception, these are characteristics of the Kali Yuga, and they're going on in many different levels of human interaction. This is common. And we want to make sure that we do not compromise in what we are presenting. And we're very fortunate to have Yashodanandana Prabhu with us. He is, for me, one of the foremost, if not the foremost, Prabhupada-focused disciple in the world. Yes. And he demonstrates it on a daily, on a weekly, on a yearly basis to all of us. So this is a blessing. And actually Prabhupada told him and Guru Kripa that they were the foremost preachers in the ISKCON movement. Gave him that direction. And he demonstrates it for us in our classes, and so much Prabhupada nectar he's disclosing to all of us from his personal association, and it's very rare to have devotees like that. And Krishna Katha, we do invite other people to come and join us. Unfortunately, we don't have their participation. It seems that everybody is pretty much in the anarchy mentality that everybody is on their own and do what they want and be what they want. But at the same time, we do welcome other people to be a part of this discussion panel, and it's reflective of the state of affairs of the modern Nilesh mentality of people. They read the books, they think, I know, okay. But they don't have the experience necessarily to be able to explain it, the facts of the matter, like Yashodanandana Prabhu does. So all glories to him. We're going to end. I wanted to say that if you're interested in donating to the Hare Krishna Society, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And the money would be used for book publications, just like we're going ahead with the Delhi Bhagavatams. We have other plans for other books that will be in a collection for distribution as we move forward. And this will please Srila Prabhupada immensely, to see that people are taking their Lakshmi and using it for book publication. So it's something to put in mind for your future plans of your life. And actually, I was looking, nobody owns anything. Nirmama. You get to use things, you have things, but actually everything is either passed on to someone else, or it's just lost or given to the government. So if you have an opportunity like this to give money for book publication, and consider it as a plan in your legacy of what you do with your life and the resources that you've been given from Krishna. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's move forward, Rupesh, with the chanting of Hare Krishna, led by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, back in the 60s from New York City. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
The Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. All glories to the Sankirtan movement, as Nilesh said, the gold standard We are interested in 24 karat gold. That's the most valuable aspect of Krishna consciousness. Haribol. We'll see you tomorrow for Srimad Bhagavatam class, everyone. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,